friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a super sweet card for you guys using the new Lawn Fawn Rub-a-Dub-Dub stamp set as well as the Perfectly Plaid Spring 6x6 pattern paper pack. I want to color my images with Copic markers, so I stamped them in Memento Tuxedo Black ink on some Copic friendly cardstock. And I'm going to begin with this bathtub. I want it to look white, but I also want it to have a little bit of dimension to it. So I'm going to color it with some light, cool grays. I'm using C0, C1, and C3. And I took that C3 and added a little bit of shadow under the lip at the top. And then I came in from both sides. And then I'm blending out with the C1. I'm drawing that color in towards the center, and then I'm going to come in with the C0 to finish things off. I'm not going to color in the bathtub completely. I'm going to leave a little bit of white space, and then I'm even going to grab my colorless blender and just go over the center of that and really soften up that color and get it to fade into white. And that will dry back a little bit lighter as well. While I have those markers out, I'm going to use the C3 and the C1 to color in the shower head. I'm just using those two darker shades because I want it to look metallic. So I just started with that C3 along the inside edge and then blended out with the C1. To add a little color to my bubbles, I'm going to go over the edge of those with the BG11. I'm just going and doing a little backwards C shape on the right side. For my mama duck, I'm going to use some warm grays to kind of differentiate her a little bit from the tub and the shower head. So I started with the W3, giving her a little bit of shadow along the edges of her body, so she'll look a little bit more rounded in appearance. And then I'm going to blend out with the W1, just softening that color, bringing it towards the center. And then I will finish with the W00. Again, I'm not going to color in her whole body. I'm just going to color down the right side and then just a little bit on the very edge of the left and on her other wing there, and leave the center of her body white. For the duck's beaks and feet, I'm going to use YR02, YR04, and YR07. I'm also going to do the beak on the little rubber ducky in the same shade. I'm just going to leave off the YR2 for the rubber ducky since it's super small, and that'll just help it look a little bit different since he's made of plastic and they're not. So anyway, I'm just going to finish up those, and then I'm going to go on with the rest of my images. I'm going to be coloring everything in kind of a muted rainbow. I think this is a perfect color palette for when you don't know the gender of the baby. My good friend is actually pregnant with her first child, and they chose not to find out, so this is going to be a card for her. But I think these are great cards to have on hand anyway when you maybe don't know the baby's gender yet, or when it's someone who chooses not to find out. This rainbow color palette is going to work for either a boy or a girl. So I'm coloring in the little duckling and the rubber duck with the Y11, Y13, and Y15. I just used the Y13 and Y15 on the rubber duck, again, just to differentiate him just a little bit, but I used all three shades on the baby duckling. For the bar of soap, I'm using G00, G02, and G03. Adding a little shadow in with that G03, and then I'm going to blend out with the G02 and finish with the G00. Moving on to the little sailboat, I'm going to use B00, B02, and B04 to color in the sails. I'm using the B04 on the inside edge and then blending out with the B02 as my midtone, and then I'll finish up the corners with the B00. For the bottom of the sailboat, I'm using R20, R22, and R24. This is a more muted, kind of pinky toned red combination. So I'm just starting with the R24 on the outside edges, blending towards the inside with the R22, and finishing up the center with the R20. And then while I have the R20 out, I'm also going to add a little bit of a rosy cheek to both the mama duck and the duckling. Just make them look nice and cheerful. I'm going back to my Y13 to color in the mast of my sailboat and also the little windows. For the bubble bath, I'm going to use V91, V93, V95, and V99. I'm going to use the darker 3 shades on the bottle and then the lighter 3 shades on the label just to set that apart. So I started with the V99, adding a little bit of shadow to the edges to give it that nice rounded appearance like a bottle of bubble bath would. And then I'm blending towards the center with the V95. I'm also going to add the V95 on the edges of the label. And then I'll finish up the bottle with the V93. I'll come in from the edges with that V93 on the label and then save a little space for the V91 so that it has that nice highlight. Once I finish that, I'll trim these out with the matching dies. I've cut down my pattern paper to create my background. I'm going to use this multicolored plaid as my wallpaper. So I'm going to glue that down to cover the entire card front. And that is a standard A2 size card, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then I'm going to add this blue plaid, and that's going to be my tile floor on my bathroom. And then I've got a tiny little strip of white, and that's going to make the baseboard. So I'll just add a bead of glue along the top edge of that blue plaid, and then I'll just press that down into place. And I'm using the grid lines on my mat to get that lined up nice and straight. I wanted to add a little sparkle and shine to my bubbles, so I'm using the Lawn Fawn Prisma glitter. It's a super fine iridescent glitter that looks really, really pretty. I'm going to take the new Lawn Fawn glue tube and add a little bit of glue to the right side of the bubbles, just following that kind of C shape that I did earlier with the B11. And then I'm going to use a pair of tweezers to help me dip those down into the Prisma glitter and just tap off the excess, and then I'll set those aside to dry. Now I'm ready to begin adhering my images. I'm going to grab the bubbles that go with the bathtub and just glue those down behind and nestle that down into place. Then I'll add a bit more glue to the back of that whole thing, add my shower head, and then I'll arrange that down on the right hand side of the card. I'll add some liquid glue to the card base where I want my bubbles to go. I find that's the easiest way to adhere them, and then I can just set them into that wet liquid glue. I'm going to make a little trail leading up towards the ceiling. The bar of soap is going to go on the floor in front of the bathtub. And the sailboat I'm going to tuck right into the bubbles. The mother duck is going to go off to the left, just overlapping that tub a little bit to give it a little bit of dimension in the scene and set the tub back a bit. And then I'll put the little duckling right in front of her, looking up at her. There's a couple ducklings in this stamp set, but this one is my favorite. I love him. I'll add the bubble bath right next to the bar of soap on the floor. And then the last thing to add is the little rubber duck, and that's going to go in the bubble bath as well. For my sentiment, I've got a piece of scrap white cardstock, and I'm going to stamp it out in some minty fresh ink. This is a really pale green that's going to match our bar of soap really nicely, but it's so light that I needed to stamp it a few times to get that sentiment to show up. I believe I stamped it 3 times in total. And it says, "Rub-a-dub-dub, a new baby to love." While I have my MISTI out, I'm going to stamp the inside of my card as well. I'm using a sentiment from the Lawn Fawn +1 stamp set, plus a few images from the Rub-a-dub-dub stamp set, and I'm stamping those in Lawn Fawn Sunflower ink. So I did another one of the ducklings, plus a little puddle and some splash marks down in the left-hand corner. I trimmed out my sentiment with one of the Lawn Fawn Everyday Sentiments borders, And I'm going to add that to the bottom of my card. I'm going to tuck it under the mama duck's little foot there, just to incorporate it a little bit better into the scene. And there you can see how pretty that glitter looks on the bubbles. And there's another peek at the inside. And that completes our card for today. I can't wait to give this card to my friend. She's due any day now, and I can't wait to meet her new baby as well. So I hope you guys also enjoyed the video. If you did, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that already. I would love to have you. Here's 2 extra videos that'll hopefully tide you over until my next one. Until then, I hope you all have an amazing day. Bye-bye.